Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, you know who it is, and it's time for our weekly track roundup where I tell you the best and worst tracks of the week according to yours truly. Before we get into the best tracks of the week, as usual, let's kick it off with the worst tracks of the week, but first, if you want to support this segment, hit up our Amazon Associates link down there in the description box. If you live in the US and you click on that link, anything you buy on Amazon, we get kickback from it. Use it to just buy some stuff you were going to buy anyway. All right, moving on to the worst tracks of the week. A good handful of worst tracks this week, not too many. This wasn't like an eventful release week in my opinion. So, you know, we do have some material here, but not a whole ton of material. I will give a shout out to the new Juicy J track Ballin featuring Kanye West, which was an incredibly generic track for both Juicy J and West. Both of their performances were super underwhelming, especially that awful line about hitting the club like a golf ball on this track. Just a painfully boring song that I just don't know why either of these artists had anything to do with. Moving on from there, we have a new track from the Chainsmokers, All We Know, which is just another painfully generic piece of EDM. Nothing really special there, but, you know, still, it just baffles my mind how tracks like this are still popular because there's really nothing special or interesting about them. Moving on from there, we have Niall Horan. I'm not pronouncing his name correctly, but I honestly at this point could care less. Of course, Zayn had to go solo from One Direction, so the rest of the members are going to find out ways to go solo. He has like this new, like a little acoustic single out, and I don't know, it's kind of like Ed Sheeran, but even more like, I don't know, generic, just even less personality. So absolutely boring right there. And also this track from the upcoming GOAT album, Requiem. These guys are kind of a psych rock outfit who, with their album World Music, didn't really give that a very positive review, though people were just like gaga for that record. I have no idea why. To be completely honest. But having said that, I got kind of morbidly curious as to what's going on with their latest record because they did come out with their last album a while ago and I didn't really try it. And they have this third one coming out on Sub Pop Records. I figured, okay, 3 albums in, they have to have matured a little bit. They have to have, you know, maybe gotten some better songwriting into the mix or something. I tried out this track called Alarms. This is just a pile of psychedelic slop. There's really nothing compositionally about this track that is interesting, or I don't know. Is any of it even really written? I don't know. It doesn't sound like it. And the performances are terrible. The vocals are god awful. And the instrumentation, what instrumentation there is on this track, the way that it comes together, again, sloppy, super sloppy. Like, it's such a mess. And not even like in a chaotic, overwhelming, like aggressive kind of way. Just kind of like in a lazy, we did too much drugs and went into the recording studio kind of way. So I'm just really kind of baffled as to what exactly GOAT is bringing to the table still on their third album over here. But these tracks, though they are some of the worst tracks of the week, they are not the worst track of the week. That prestigious title goes to the latest single from Korn featuring Corey Taylor, of all people. The song A Different World. Which has an amazing chorus about like killing me, ah! Like it's pretty garbage. It's pretty terrible. I think even people who have managed to pull off the mental gymnastics that would be necessary to continue to be a Korn fan in 2016 are even going to have a hard time justifying this one, justifying this chorus, justifying this track. You could at least make the argument that the Skrillex collaboration album was something new or a risk that the band needed to take in order to stay relevant and just stay in the mainstream, stay on the minds of people. But there's really no excuse at all for what's going on in this new track. But I digress. Let's move on from there. Let's move on to the tracks that I wasn't really in love with. I didn't really hate. I was just kind of meh on these tracks, sort of indifferent toward these tracks, though I do think they are worth at least a little mention. We do have Mr. Alex Frankel of Holy Ghost fame coming out with a new single, Negative Space. He has a new project on the way. And even though I don't really find the track as entertaining as I do many Holy Ghost songs, It's still kind of catchy. You know, it's got a bit of a new wave thing going on, a bit of a synth pop thing going on, of course. So if you're really into that sound, give this thing a shot. The Weeknd came out with a new track, False Alarm, and believe me, it is a false alarm. False alarm, people, false alarm. The track's not that good. It's a total mess. I have no idea what Abel was thinking on this track. That Daft Punk collaboration came together so well, but this new track over here, while there are elements to it that I think are really cool, some risky elements, like the way that the chorus on this thing ramps up with this driving beat, sounds kind of like a bit of a post-punk thing or a synth-punk thing or a new wave thing. It's pretty cool what he's doing, and I love the shouting vocals at this point on the track. I think this is the point where most people are turned off by the cut, though. Where I find the song boring is on the verses, which just kind of seem like filler, seem like dead space, just kind of seem like some sort of placeholder to sort of take up time and lull people into this sense of, I don't know, indifference before the chorus explodes. And it's like, oh, wow, actually something is happening. You know, I think the verses should be just as good as the chorus, if not better. But actually, they're just really underwritten, and there's nothing all that intriguing about them. So moving on from there, we have Jagwar Ma with Slipping. I can't read. Sorry. This is a bit of a, I don't know, just a really middle-of-the-road dance track. I was kind of hoping for something a little more vibrant from these guys on this new single and this new album. But unfortunately, this is just really a faceless, ethereal, kind of alternative, I told you I can't talk today, alternative dance track. I can't talk today or read today. That didn't really rub me in a good way or a bad way. You know, it was just, really just a thing. You know, nothing all that special about it. Moving on from there, we have CIVIC. Unfortunately, in the meh category with their new single called The Mirror, which to me just kind of sounds like their usual grimy driving bass and punchy sequenced drums formula with some way reverbed and glossy synth leads thrown on top of it, which doesn't really add much to the equation in my opinion. Doesn't really add much to the duo's aesthetic or sound. So I don't know. I know these kind of psychedelic layers of synths are pretty popular right now. But it doesn't really work in the context of their usual bass line and drums. I mean, hey, change your sound, do something new, you know? You guys have been working with the sound for a while now. But it just kind of seems like your usual foundation of a CIVIC track with just some glossy synth window dressing thrown on top. But moving on from there, our final meh track is the Kings of Meh, the Kings of Leon, with the song Around the World. This might end up being one of the blandest rock albums of 2016, people. Take notice. Take notice. All right, moving on from there, we have the best tracks of the week. Want to give a shout out to Radiohead with their new B-side, Ill Wind. Didn't hear it, but I'm sure if I was buying the deluxe edition of A Moon-Shaped Pool, I would probably enjoy it. All right, and the next track in this best tracks category, total shocker, people. Drum roll. Drum on your desk here. Just build up some tension. Build it. Thank you. Kid Cudi, Surfin. Yes, a Kid Cudi song is in the best tracks part of this video, and that's because it's actually a good track. This is one of Kid Cudi's better singles in a while. I love the mix of African funk and jazz elements in the instrumental here. Some of the sampling is awesome. Some of the sort of jutting, jerky melodies at the beginning of the track are fantastic. And even Kid Cudi's vocal melodies are, I guess, more pronounced, and the word I want to say is decisive than the usual aimless, annoying, terrible moaning that he usually employs on every single one of his tracks. Like, he actually seems like he's focused on this cut. I will say some of the lyrics are pretty corny on this cut, like when he says the industry is full of shit, and like this song, or he is the enema. God, why? But having said that, still, I think Kid Cudi's vocal delivery on this track is solid. I think the song is well written. I like the idea of him not having this hype or this trend that he's riding, so he kind of creates his own wave. Even as somebody who's not really a Kid Cudi fan, I have to admit that, you know, he's kind of on a wavelength all his own in a way. So there are a lot of elements of this track that I think are good, and he doesn't come off as delusional as usual on this cut either. Yeah, you know, vocal delivery, the instrumental, the production, Some of the lyrics don't really have a lot of issues with this track. I think it's a solid track. Good on Kid Cudi. Hopefully the rest of his new album is just as good. Praying to the rap gods. That's all I have to say. Moving on from there, we have, this is not a track, but something I want to turn you guys on to and give a little shout out to, and maybe have you guys go check it out. Homeboy, Sandman, and Aesop Rock have a new EP out, a new free EP via Stone's Throw Records. We will leave a link down there in the description where you can go check that out, download that thing, give it a listen. These guys are both great, and it's cool that they collaborate with each other so frequently. Captain Murphy, aka Flying Lotus, comes through with this track, Crowned, via the Adult Swim singles collection. This track was kind of short and not really your typical hip-hop song or anything like that. It's very theatrical, very narrative-based, and it seems like the instrumental is just there to, I don't know, kind of create tension. It's not like there's a point where like some hard beat comes through where the song really gets going. It seems like a teaser or a taster to something, which is kind of obnoxious to me in a way, because it seems like every single new song that we hear from Captain Murphy just sounds like a cliffhanger of some sort. It's not like we're listening to a finished product or anything. And all I can do is hope that these tracks are building up to an album, because if the fans really want anything, it's another Captain Murphy record. I mean, I thought the last record was okay, but there was just so much potential to what Flying Lotus was doing on that album that there has to be more. There has to be something else to this project that he's pulled together, and hopefully he ends up delivering on that. Moving on from there, we have Dillinger Escape Plan with Symptom of Terminal Illness. Really another kind of creative metalcore, mathcore track from these guys. Excited to listen to their final album. Unfortunate that they're breaking up, but at least they're kind of ending it off with a finale consciously. Nothing worse than putting out a great album or putting out an album and then, a year later, without anybody foreseeing, the band just kind of breaks up. So, they're kind of ending it on their own terms. That's a good thing. And finally, the Wytches with Crest of Death. I've reviewed these guys before. I think in a previous segment on this channel, favorite track segment, I said they were from Australia. They're not from Australia. They're from the UK. I'm an idiot. Okay, so I apologize for that. But still, this track over here, kind of a surprising change of pace for the band. Not so much the very noisy and chaotic psych and garage that I'm typically used to from these guys, but this is kind of like a bit of a punk track, kind of a noise rock track on this thing. It's definitely not the throwback elements to the 60s that I've heard these guys work with before. It's definitely a little more modern, a little more aggressive, definitely more gruff. So, and I think they play to these sounds really well. So, they incorporate these sounds nicely. They're not just like, trying it just to try it. They pull it off well. And, those are going to be my favorite tracks of this week, the best tracks of the week, the worst tracks of the week, the meh tracks of the week. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And again, hit up that Amazon Associates link down there in the description box. If you're buying school books, if you're buying birthday presents, if you're buying yourself a copy of that new Danny Brown CD, buy yourself a copy of that new Danny Brown CD. Treat yourself to that, because that is a good-ass album. All right, guys. We are going to leave it at that. You're the best. Forever.